This is Roger Simon for PJTV, and I'm here with Danny Ayalon, who is the Deputy Foreign Minister of the State of Israel, a member of the Knesset, and the former Israeli ambassador to the United States. Also here at the present moment for the funeral of Warren Christopher. Welcome to PJTV, sir.
Thank you, Roger. Great to be here with you and with PJTV.
Well, thank you. And we're here at a moment, though, that is pleasurable for us, but for the world, everything is in a state of disruption. So let us begin with a question about that disruption.
Well, I would say that certainly we see a great deal of change in the Middle East. Actually, it seems like the Middle East finally may be catching with the rest of the world in terms of progress, modernization, but most importantly, I hope that we will see a change that civil rights and human rights will be evident in all the Arab countries. And as far as Israel is concerned, you know, we wish all the countries and the people around us well. We would very much like the people to be able to exercise their rights and to do it in a non-violent fashion.
The situation isn't quite that simple, and as we know, over this weekend, Hillary Clinton made a statement on American television that Bashar Assad of Syria was a reformer. Well, now, is that true from the perspective of your country?
I would say it remains to be seen. Definitely, Syria is a very important country in the Middle East. I'm not sure that Bashar Assad showed a great deal of restraint or responsibility when it comes to peaceful behavior. I think the most troubling thing, not just for us, but I think for the entire international community, is the alliance of Syria with Ahmadinejad and this brutal regime, I would say almost illegitimate regime in Tehran. But to the extent that we will see some changes in Syria that would move more towards a equitable society with human rights, I think that would be a blessing for all.
What about Egypt? Now, we've been watching Egypt carefully over the last month or two, and now they're moving toward elections, but there's a lot of nervousness. What's the Israeli response to this?
Very, very simple. As I said, you know, we respect the changes that we see. We respect the fact that all the changes that we see so far are quite spontaneous and authentic by the people and for the people. The only caveat, the only danger is that this really genuine revolution will be hijacked by extreme forces, dark forces in Tehran or radical Islamists. In short, we do not want to see the revolution of Iran 1979 replicated, whereby in 79 in Iran it was also an authentic revolution which was hijacked by Khomeini and the Ayatollahs. This is the danger that we see right now, and I think that together the international community with a judicious act and a very decisive action can prevent that from happening for the benefit of the region, of the people of the region, and globally as well.
Now, at Pajamas Media, we've had contacts with some of the bloggers and the democratic forces over there. And one of them, particularly Sand Monkey, I've had contact with. And they all talk, even those people, surprisingly, about renegotiating the peace treaty with Israel. How would Israel respond to that?
Well, we were quite encouraged by the interim government in Egypt that said how committed they are for ensuring and continuing the peace treaty. I think this is a cornerstone for any architecture in the Middle East, as it was in the past 30 years, but also for the future. I think that the peace treaty with Israel is the best thing that happened to the region in our times. It is a great interest for Israel, but also a great interest for Egypt and the Egyptian people to continue this peace treaty, which is bringing to the Egyptian foreign exchange reserve a third of the money every year. This is a direct and indirect derivation from the peace treaty. And I am quite sure that any regime, any government in Egypt will continue that, unless, of course, we will see the fingers of Iran and its proxies, whether it's Hezbollah or Hamas, who are trying to change things there. We do know that they are trying, but I'm not sure that they will succeed, and certainly I'm sure the Egyptian people will not let it succeed.
And what happens if Egypt comes to Israel and says, for example, one of the keystones of that negotiation was that the Sinai was demilitarized, as you know. These same bloggers and supposedly democratic forces seem upset with that. I guess it's an assault to their egos or something. What would Israel do if confronted by such a demand?
Well, I would say the true democratic process, or a true one, will ensure the continuity of peace. I think democratic forces always prefer peace to belligerence. And I wouldn't put it past a dedicated effort by extreme Islamists, maybe from even Tehran, who try to insert these messages. What we've seen, Roger, so far is that Israel was not an issue at all in any of the revolutions around us, nor even the Palestinian problem, which again attests to the fact that the Palestinian problem is not a central issue or not the main destabilizer factor in the world or in the Middle East. If anything, it was the dysfunctional societies that we have seen around us, and this is what the people are trying to correct. So when it comes to relations to Israel, all the countries and peoples will only benefit from it. So I'm again optimistic that indeed that the true democratic forces will prevail, and this is important for us to make sure that a strong civil society will emerge in all the countries around us.
At the same time, how concerned are you about the rise of a potential third intifada in the midst of this? Because we've seen several events in the last few weeks. We've seen the murder of people in their beds in Itamar. We've seen a bombing at the bus station area in Jerusalem. And we've seen also now an upsurge in missiles being fired on southern Israel, Beersheba, all these places. Do you think that is this the hand of Iran? And what do you think is happening here?
What's most upsetting and troubling is the continued intransigence of this current Palestinian leadership to step up to the table and negotiate with us face to face without any preconditions. And I hope this will still be the case. But when the strategy of the Palestinian Authority is being revealed, just as Mr. Saib Arikat, the chief negotiator, has revealed only a week ago that their strategy is to no negotiations with Israel, but to unilateral action and to international pressure on Israel. This is not a way to move forward. This is not a way to build trust. This is not a way to really reconcile the outstanding issues between us. And I can only be sorry for that. We are calling upon the Palestinians to come up. It's our interest, it's their interest. It's not a zero-sum game. We should negotiate only an agreed-upon solution by consensus, by agreement between Israel and the Palestinians can hold. And so far, we have not seen a change of culture. If Mr. Abu Mazen and Fayyad continue to glorify terrorists, if they name streets and squares after brutal terrorists who killed and murdered children and innocent people, it's not a sign for a peaceful approach. If they continue to teach in their schools and the curriculum that Israel has no place on the face of the earth, it's also very much troubling. I do hope that the Palestinian leadership will learn from the historic mistakes of successive Palestinian leadership in the past. And if they will continue with maximalistic demands from Israel, with minimalistic concessions, then of course we cannot move forward. Everybody's asking, what is Israel willing to give? We have given a lot, and we will continue to give. Nobody's asking what are the Palestinians are willing to give up in terms of territory, in terms of refugee, in terms of security arrangements, in terms of Jerusalem. There are a lot of things to discuss, but we can only discuss it simultaneously and directly and without preconditions. And they're all interconnected. The Palestinians' attempt to single out one of the issues, which happens to be settlement, is wrong. Because this issue will also be solved only in the context of all other issues being negotiated with give and take simultaneously.
Well, listening to you, you make total sense. But I also
Thank
had
you.
this flashback. I also had this flashback that I could have had the same conversation with you 25 or 30 years ago, and almost nothing would change. And that's the scary part of it, and the sad part of it. And I was thinking about the famous comment by Golda Meir years and years ago about
when they will care more about the life of their own children than they care about killing Israeli children.
Right, that's it. Okay. Well, I mean, I think she was on the nose at that particular point. But why? What can you do? Is there anything any of us can do to help the Palestinians get from there to here, to do this, to make that change?
And Roger, also that invokes in my memory the timeless saying of Abba Ibn, was also a legendary foreign minister of Israel, that they never missed an opportunity, the Palestinians to miss an opportunity. Nobody can negotiate for them. Nobody can bring them to the table. It has to come out of their own accord. And they must realize that it is within their own interest to do that, that they do not do us any favor by making concessions to us. It's basically to their own people. But I think something has changed, Roger, if I may, in the last at least 17 years since the Oslo process started. And that is the attitude of the Israeli people. You see, where we were 17 years ago and where we are today, the Israeli position has really evolved in leaps and bounds to actually to the effect that if 18 years ago 80% of Israelis will tell you that they are against the Palestinian state, and this is not without merit. Looking at the history, there has never ever been a Palestinian state. Yet we are pragmatic, we understand, we don't want to control another people. We have agreed for a political and physical separations with the Palestinians. We have accepted their right for self-determinations. I'm not sure that they have accepted our right for self-determination yet. But comparing the Israeli position to the Palestinian position, as we have evolved, and now 80% of Israelis believe that the Palestinian state is imperative, you check the Palestinian position and you compare the Palestinian position today to where they were 17 years ago, and there is no change whatsoever. They have not budged an inch. So I hope that after this phase of Israeli education for peace and for reconciliations, for acceptance of a Palestinian state, now will be their turn to accept and reconcile with us.
Well, you think the atmosphere in the Middle East may infect them in any way, positively or negatively?
Well, I think to the extent that they will understand that the international community is not in their pockets. And it may not be in perception anymore with the attention being given to so many other flashpoints. Maybe this will encourage them to come up to the table. But so long as they think that they don't need to do anything and that Israel will be, quote unquote, delivered by the international community, they have no incentive whatsoever to negotiate nor to compromise. I hope there will be a sobering effect for them, the changes that we see now in the Middle East, and maybe they will also start caring about the real interest of their own people.
Well, thank you very much, Danny
It was a
Ayalon,
pleasure
for joining us here at PJTV.
Always good to be here with you.